Hi and welcome to the LM Report. I'm your host, Lima, and this is episode 13B recorded on April 16, 2025. Today's episode, titled Reforming Governance, Immigration, Efficiency, and Electoral Shifts, explores the transformative changes sweeping across U.S. policy landscapes. From immigration enforcement and border security to government efficiency and the political maneuvering shaping the 2026 midterm elections. Join me as we unpack these developments and their implications for the nation's future. The U.S. administration is rolling out bold reforms to address illegal immigration, a topic dominating national discourse. On March 4, 2025, Reuters reported that President Trump signed an executive order to block illegal immigrants from accessing Social Security Act benefits, ensuring that federal resources are reserved for U.S. citizens. This move complements a proposed self-deportation plan under review by the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, which would offer stipends and travel assistance to encourage voluntary departures. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, in a March 2025 Fox News interview, emphasized that the plan aims to streamline deportations while maintaining humanitarian considerations, with a potential 60-day deadline for illegal immigrants to leave or face permanent re-entry bans. These policies reflect a broader strategy to strengthen immigration enforcement, with ICE operations in Arizona targeting high-priority cases such as individuals wanted for murder or human trafficking. However, these federal initiatives face resistance from several Democratic-led states. Governors like Illinois' J.B. Pritzker, Minnesota's Tim Walz, and New York's Kathy Hochul have vowed to protect local immigrant communities, citing state sovereignty. A March 14, 2025, CNBC analysis clarifies that the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution grants federal law precedence in immigration matters, potentially rendering state resistance legally untenable. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom has escalated tensions by filing a lawsuit against U.S. tariffs, arguing they destabilize the state's economy. A February 2025 S&P Global report highlights California's $68 billion budget deficit worsened by $2.8 billion spent on illegal immigrant support programs, including healthcare and housing. Critics argue that these expenditures, coupled with mismanagement of wildfire prevention and infrastructure projects like the stalled high-speed rail, have left California financially vulnerable. Newsom's legal challenge may struggle as tariffs fall under federal trade authority, but it underscores the state's precarious fiscal position amid reduced federal funding. Voter ID reforms are gaining momentum as a cornerstone of electoral integrity. A Rasmussen Reports survey from April 2025 reveals robust public support, with 50% of Democrats and 80 to 90% of Republicans and independents favoring proof of citizenship to vote in national elections. The administration is leveraging the Real ID Act to standardize voter verification, aiming to prevent non-citizens from using mail-in ballots. While the SAVE Act, which mandates voter ID, faces Senate opposition, executive actions could bypass legislative gridlock by enforcing Real ID compliance. This shift could significantly impact the 2026 midterms, particularly in states like California, where lax voter ID laws have historically enabled higher turnout among non-citizen populations, according to a 2025 Heritage Foundation study. By ensuring only citizens vote, the administration seeks to restore confidence in electoral processes, a priority for 65% of Americans, per a 2025 Gallup poll. Border security is another critical focus, with unprecedented measures to curb illegal crossings and trafficking. On April 16, 2025, Rapid Response 47 reported that Secretary of the Interior Berkeley transferred 110,000 acres of federal land along the U.S.-Mexico border to the U.S. Army for 3 years to enhance security operations. This follows a 2025 DHS report estimating that 80% of fentanyl entering the U.S. originates from Mexican cartels, often facilitated by lax border policies under prior administrations. The military's involvement aims to disrupt drug and human trafficking networks, with ICE reporting a 30% increase in cartel-related arrests since January 2025. However, critics, including the ACLU, argue that militarizing the border risks escalating tensions without addressing domestic drug demand, which fuels cartel activity. The administration counters that internal actors, including former DHS officials, have enabled trafficking, necessitating robust federal intervention. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, is driving anti-corruption and cost-cutting measures. A March 2025 DOGE update revealed that active government credit cards outnumber federal employees by a factor of 2, suggesting potential misuse or fraud. DOGE's broader mission includes reducing the $1.8 trillion federal deficit with projected savings of $6.1 billion from Education Department cuts, $1.9 billion from Justice Department reductions, and $800 million annually from HUD streamlining, per a March 27, 2025, Washington Post report. These efforts align with a 20,000 employee reduction across federal health agencies, including 3,500 FDA and 2,400 CDC job cuts, as reported by CBS News on March 27, 2025. While DOGE's reforms promise efficiency, public health advocates warn of potential delays in drug approvals and food safety oversight, highlighting the delicate balance between cost-cutting and service delivery. Education funding debates are intensifying, with the administration halting federal grants to universities like Harvard for non-compliance with an executive order promoting free speech and equal treatment. Reuters reported on April 16, 2025, that Harvard's hiring of controversial figures and its handling of academic misconduct allegations prompted the funding freeze. Former President Obama's April 2025 ex-post defending Harvard's academic freedom underscores the polarized discourse, with conservatives arguing that universities should rely on private endowments. The administration's stance could reshape higher education, encouraging institutions to prioritize accountability over federal subsidies, a move supported by 55% of Americans, per a 2025 Pew Research poll. Allegations of misconduct among public officials are fueling calls for accountability. New York Attorney General Letitia James faces a criminal referral from the U.S. Federal Housing Finance Agency, FHFA, for alleged mortgage fraud, as reported in March 2025 conservative media. The referral accuses James of misrepresenting a 5-unit Brooklyn property as a 4-unit dwelling to secure favorable loan terms, violating Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac regulations. This echoes the civil fraud case James pursued against Trump, raising questions about prosecutorial ethics. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi is reviewing the case, though James' office dismisses the allegations as politically motivated. Similarly, judicial overreach is under scrutiny, with federal Judge Jed Boasberg facing impeachment calls after issuing a contempt ruling against Trump officials, later vacated by the Supreme Court, per Julie Kelly's April 2025 ex-post. Bondi's lawsuit against Maine's Department of Education for Title IX violations further exemplifies the administration's commitment to enforcing federal law, as announced in a March 2025 DOJ press release. Internationally, the World Health Organization's WHO draft pandemic accord, announced by Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus in April 2025, excludes U.S. participation, limiting its global reach. The U.S.'s withdrawal from WHO funding, continued from 2020, reduces the organization's $4.8 billion biennial budget by 20%, per a 2025 WHO financial report. This stance reflects a focus on domestic health priorities, with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. set to release studies on environmental toxins linked to autism within weeks. As noted in a Patriots in Control ex-post. While speculative claims about vaccine-related causes lack evidence, Kennedy's transparency efforts aim to rebuild public trust, a priority for 70% of Americans, per a 2025 Kaiser Family Foundation survey. The 2026 midterms are shaping up as a battleground for these policies. Democrats, led by House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, are targeting 35 Republican-held seats, buoyed by special election gains, per an April 8, 2025, NBC News report. Republicans, holding a narrow 220 to 213 House majority, face risks, with analysts predicting a potential 7-seat loss, per April 13, 2025, Newsweek article. In the Senate, Democrats need 4 seats to regain control, targeting Michigan, New Hampshire, and Georgia, where GOP incumbents face competitive races, per an April 14, 2025, NBC News report. Fundraising data shows vulnerabilities, with Senator Susan Collins raising only $842,000, trailing her 2019 figures, per an April 15, 2025, Politico report. Elon Musk's declining approval ratings, 49% unfavorable, per a March 2025 Harvard-Harris poll. could energize Democrats, though their focus on crime, inflation, and trade credibility remains critical, per April 14, 2025 Newsweek analysis. Transparency efforts are bolstering public trust. The DOJ's declassification of documents related to past political controversies, overseen by Bondi, is supported by 60% of Americans, per a 2025 DOJ report. Allegations of $100 million in foreign dark money laundered through the 1630 Fund, as reported by Charlie Kirk on X in April 2025, remain unverified but fuel electoral integrity debates. Musk's claim that U.S. foreign aid is recycled into campaigns lacks evidence but resonates with 45% of voters, per a 2025 Rasmussen poll. These issues could sway midterm voters, particularly if voter ID reforms and anti-corruption measures gain traction. In conclusion, the U.S. is navigating a pivotal moment, with reforms in immigration, government efficiency, and electoral integrity reshaping governance. Challenges like state resistance, judicial disputes, and economic concerns persist, but the administration's focus on accountability and domestic priorities is galvanizing public support. The 2026 midterms will test these policies' resilience, potentially redefining the political landscape. Stay tuned as we continue to explore these dynamic changes and their impact on America's future. Thank you for joining me on the LM Report. If you found this episode insightful, please subscribe to our channel for regular updates on political, economic, and global developments. Stay informed, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next episode.